the somewhat better news is that out of this process of rendering women invisible because of this lack of trust based on what I just said about Elena Ceausescu, um, by the mid 90s, so that's 5 years into the transition period, there were enough intellectuals, artists, journalists, but really academics more, philosophers, literary critics, historians, who started to simply ask, what's going on? We know that there is a history to feminism. We know that there are women who did things in the past, and we know that there's a lot of women today that have enormous energies they can offer, and somehow nobody's paying attention to this. And so I will say we because I was in Romania at that time and I was starting to work on these issues and think about them. We started to read Western feminist, mostly liberal.
Mhm.
There was allergy to Marxism
Right.
at that time. There
Which
isn't
I
so
wrote
much,
about.
right? There isn't
Yes.
so much anymore. I think generationally we're in a different
Mm.
place, and
Yeah.
people have a different relationship with that past. But at that time, it was primarily liberal. So John Stuart Mill, Wollstonecraft. I mean, things like like that. But of course, Mary Daly was also something that people started to read. So taking those ideas and really with a focus on the kind of an individual sense of autonomy, right, as the core issue, the sense of creating a room of our own and a space in which we could be recognized and appreciated and valued in a true sense, is where that came from. um, it did not materialize in any kind of political movement at that time. What it materialized in, and this is where the good news is, I am building to the good news,
Mm.
is the formation of several programs that focused on feminist theory, and then that morphed into gender studies. At that time, the use of the word gender, of course, was still kind of coming into being, not in this country, but in terms, the word did not exist, right? It
Right.
had grammatical meaning, but not cultural, political, social meaning. And so in Bucharest at the School for National um, sorry, political studies and political administration in Bucharest, and University of Bucharest, and then University Babeș Bolyai in Cluj. Three different, passionate, one anthropologist, one political scientist, and one philosopher, all women, created programs that were master's programs and then became PhD concentrations in this area. And so the good news numerically is that by now there's over 350 master students that have graduated from this, and over something like 100 PhDs with some interest or focus on feminist theory or gender studies. So there is now a field of knowledge making in Romania that self-identifies as gender studies, that has predominantly a feminist perspective, not just liberal. There's now a lot of interest in Marxist and queer theory with a Marxist flavor. Um, and overall, there's, enough research that's been done and knowledge that has been accumulated to suggest that these theories are being taken very seriously. The real problem is that the translation of such ideas and the kind of problems that they illustrate into policy making, into political platforms for mobilizing people and coming up with solutions for real, like domestic violence, problems like that, is not really gaining purchase to the
Mhm.
extent that I think is required to make some significant progress for some of these problems.